Hi, Alexis. Sorry to hear this, but thanks for asking and giving us a chance to help here. So, firstly, I want to say to anyone who's concerned about insomnia or little sleep damaging our health somehow, I've found no evidence whatsoever to back this up. I've reviewed the literature thoroughly, and again, I've never found any convincing evidence that this is true. However, sometimes, even if all the evidence points in a certain direction, part of our brain just doesn't believe it. Part of our brain goes like, no, but what if all this is wrong? What if it really damages my brain? What if what we hear in the mainstream is all true? What do we do then, right? I'd say firstly, trying to convince our brain that there is no threat is not helpful. Then that just becomes another part of a struggle, where it's sort of like trying to convince a friend of who has a different political opinion than we have of our political opinion. Never leads to a helpful place, right? Same thing within ourselves. It doesn't help to try to convince ourselves that little sleep is not a danger, right? So what do we do? Well, this scenario, I think, is similar to when somebody says, I'm afraid that if I don't sleep enough, I'm going to have a car accident and hurt somebody. This is not something we can say we can accept, right? If we're afraid that if we sleep little, we're going to be tired, then we can say like, well, maybe we can accept that. Maybe it's okay to be tired. And then the pressure to sleep comes down because we're willing to experience being tired. But that's not true for having a car accident or some damage to our body. That's not something we can say, well, that's fine if that happens. I can accept that. I can be willing to experience that. So what do we do in this situation? Well, I think the key here is to see that a car accident or damage to our brain or our body is a hypothetical future event. It is not what is causing our distress in the now. What is causing our distress in the now is our brain warning us about a potential future event. So even if some hypothetical future event is unacceptable to us, experiencing the warnings of said event can be acceptable to us. We can find that the warning itself, the thoughts about this, the feelings it brings up, that is acceptable. We can see that thinking of the thought of having bodily damage, the thought is acceptable to us. The thought is not going to harm us. The thought is completely harmless. The emotions that come with it are completely harmless. And then what happens is, when we are no longer trying to stop the thoughts and stop the emotions, then the brain goes like, oh, the warning was heard. I don't need to push these warnings anymore. And then we find peace of mind. So I think this is the key, seeing that even if the hypothetical outcome is unacceptable, the warnings, the thoughts, the emotions, we can find ourselves ready to accept them, and then everything becomes easy for us.